Welcome everyone to this week's Late Title Tuesday. I'm your host GM Benjamin Bach, and it's my pleasure to be bringing you all the action today. And we got some big names showing up. We have Dania, we have Hikaru Nakamura, Big Fish, Dropstone, Vidit, Gujarati, another very strong Grandmaster, rated over 2700. Bogdan Dejac, a young and upcoming Romanian player, I believe rated around 2680, and Draken, also 2700 plus. Duboff, also 2700 plus. So it's going to be a pretty exciting tournament, you guys. And I'm especially hyped to see Dania playing and Hikaru. Hikaru not the first seed today. Dania outrates him by 1 point. Maybe if Hikaru had known that, he would have jumped in the pool real quick. But we're going to get started in just a minute. And why is this so late? Well, there is a Chesscom recently introduced 2 Title Tuesdays. Traditionally it was always 1, but now they have 2, and one's in the morning and one a bit later in the day. We see Jeffrey Zhang also joining, 45 seconds to start, you guys. So lots of awesome players in this tournament. So yeah, let me know who your favorite is to win. I mean, I would think Hikaru is still a favorite, especially because Dania, he's very strong in blitz, but especially without the increment. But we're gonna see. So it's gonna be a lot of fun for sure. Thank you all for being here. We're gonna get started in less than 20 seconds. How did Dania's rating get so high? You know, just win games. Anyway, we are about to get started. So let's watch Dania for now. Okay, so Dania is playing with the black pieces against Jano. Let's look at it from Daniel's perspective. And knight e2? Wait, what? I've never seen this opening. Already on move 3. What is this? A very weird King's Gambit with a knight on e2. I mean, so I guess if you take an e4, white wants to go queen e2. So Dania just develops with knight at c6. Knight at c3 by white. Bishop c5, nice move. Making sure white always has difficulty castling. And I don't know really what Jano had in mind, but it looks quite pleasant for Dania. If we have a quick look at the evil bar, it's already giving black a very pleasant advantage. What Dania can do is go castles and try to strike quickly. e5, but queen e7, isn't that pawn just lost? His idea is that if Dania were to take, there was d4, but now this pawn is just lost. Duboff won the first title Tuesday of the day. I thought Hikaru won, to be honest, but I missed it. Anyway, queen e7 by Dania, hitting the pawn on e5. White simply has no way to protect it. d4, you just snap that one off. Knight d3, knight takes c5, also winning a pawn. Okay, so d4, bishop takes d4, and Dania's up 2 pawns with already a winning position, in my opinion. So let's see whether he will go for it. Yeah, Duboff came in second. I guess he shared first, but they look at the tie breaks. Okay, bishop takes d4 looks like quite a natural move. You remove the defender of the pawn on e5. You also add another attacker. And I think if Dania plays the move, he should be winning. So let's see. And Dania indeed does take the pawn on d4. It's looking crushing for black already. He can take on e5 in the next move. White's king will be completely stuck in the center. He can never castle. So looking tough here for Jano. And I think Dania is just going to be on his way to a first round victory. I don't think Daniel is streaming today, right? Let me check real quick. Dania does not seem to be streaming. Maybe he will turn on the stream later. We'll see about that. But bishop e2. Queen takes c5 looks very natural now. Yep, he's up 2 pawns. Once again, the white king still stuck in the center. Not looking good for white. Knight at d3. I guess you can really move the queen inward. You can take another pawn if you want to. But the drawback of that is that you give white the option of castling. So I guess it's better to move the queen somewhere. Like a5 or like e7. And black should have a dominant position up 2 pawns. Okay, take. Bishop d2, queen d4, nice move, stopping white from castling anyway. Dania up 3 pawns now, as we can see. c3 by white. So white wants to push the queen away to be able to castle. So Dania gives a check, g3. He could go queen h3 now, still stopping castling from white. He goes queen e4, hitting the rook, but this gives white a possibility to castle. And Dania should be winning up so many pawns, but it will be a game. Right, so we see rook takes f6, pawn takes, and knight at f4. So I think a good practical decision by white, going for some practical tricks. Maybe knight at h5, hitting the pawn on f6 with a fork. Dania having a nice 20-second time advantage. Let's see whether he will go for that. c4 by white. Okay, but this gives Dania the time to stabilize. I guess he wants to go knight at d5. But something like d6 should be fine for Dania to be able to bring the bishop into the game. Let's see what he's going to do. Dania does play d6. Now his bishop can develop. So let's see. I think knight d5 or knight h5 has to be played. Hit the pawn on 6, go for some tricks. Knight d5, queen d4 check. Okay, you have to move the king to g2 or h1. You cannot trade the queens, because then you will be down too much material in an endgame. King g2 played. White is still hitting this, but is it a real threat? With the queen no longer being on e4, it's not a fork. So let's see what Dania will do. He goes bishop b6. Wait, but the eval bar hates that move. Wait. What? Wait, why is bishop b6 not a good move? Knight x6 played, king h8. Something is wrong here for Dania. Something is wrong here. Maybe white has some tactic. Like, does the white have queen to c2? Hitting, and it's played queen c2 on the board. How do you defend a pawn on h7? If you go knight g6, maybe there's bishop c3 all of a sudden. Hitting your queen and your king is on the same diagonal. And wait, where does your queen actually go? If you go to c5, knight e4, you lose your queen. If you go to b6, knight at d7, you also lose your queen. I think Dania's lost here. Maybe the only move to stay in the game is king to g7. Because if white takes, there's king takes f6. King g7 played by Dania. Okay, hitting the knight. Let's see what's going to happen now. White could make a draw here. Knight h5, the king moves back. Oh, but wait, but now he just takes here. g5 maybe? You take, but I don't see a checkmate. If Dania gets one more move, king e7, he's completely winning. He will be up a rook, and the king should be completely safe on e7 or d7. There will be no checkmate whatsoever. So bishop g5 should be considered. Lure the king out, and then maybe some tricks. But 17 seconds right. He goes bishop g5, taken by Dania. Rook to f1. Wait, this is suddenly very tricky. White is threatening h4 with checkmate. h4 would be checkmate. Maybe f5? So you create this square for your king, but very, very tricky. Tough game for Dania here in the first round. He's down to 33 seconds. What is he going to do? Bishop h3 check. Okay, he's stopping this h4 move. White takes with the king, but now rook f5 is a checkmate. Wait, f5? It's not. Queen g7. Queen g7 and take the queen. Does he see it? Queen. No! Dania escapes. And king e7. Now he's completely winning. Queen g5, king d7, but queen g7. White is still in the game. King e7, take the rook. Alright, Dania is materials evening up here. But black should be better because he's very active. These pawns are not going anywhere just yet. Let's see what it's going to do. Dania, 26 seconds. White, only 6. Here comes the king. King d4. Check. King e3. King c5 is a repetition. If Dania wants to win, king e3 on the board. Bishop d1. You could take another pawn, maybe. Does Dania take it? Queen h7, check. King back. Only move. Queen e4, king back. Does he take the pawn? Dania, 19 seconds. Knight takes c4, also good move. Queen c3, check. Queen d3. Queen e1. King d4. Bishop e2. Maybe check now. King g2 has to be played. Knight e3. Okay, he repeats the position. I quite like check, I guess, and knight e3. But it's very, very tricky with this king out in the open. Queen f5 check. g4 by white. Where does the queen go? This king is still completely exposed. Queen h7 check. King g3. And how do you defend here? Maybe white has some queen e4 played. Maybe queen f2. Queen a1 played. King c5 and bishop f3. Hitting the queen. 5 seconds for Dania as well. Queen e3. Maybe push the pawn. Push the pawn. Queen g7. Hitting the pawn on c7. Queen e5. Okay, but you trade and now you push this pawn all the way up the board. How is black ever going to stop it? Black is up 3 pawns here on this side of the board. But h6 apparently was not good because now you're completely blocked. Dania can start. King d5. No. c4. Wait, this game is going back and forth, but Dania should be winning now because these pawns are not going anywhere. And sooner or later, white will be in Zugzwang. Like king c3, b5, you have to make a move. King d4, b4. Dania's going to win this game. b3, the pawns cannot be stopped, d4, and it's basically all over. c3, d3. Very, very up and down game, but Dania gets the first win. Could have really gone the other way, but Dania wins. That's the way she goes. So let's see what other games are still in progress. So we have Mkhitaryan, also regular in Title Tuesdays. He is down a pawn here. He has the exchange now, but it should be a draw. He can take. Okay, king f3. This should be a draw. Black has a rook, but white has a bishop and 2 pawns. Can black maybe still create some chances here? I don't really see it, but you never know. Black has 30 seconds, white only 8. Rook c2, bishop e2, maybe move the rook. He moves the king there. Okay, still not over, especially if somehow he would be able to collect the pawn somehow. Okay, rook to d3, bishop e2, move the rook. Bishop f3, white. Okay, that's 1 pawn. Rook c2 coming as well. It's not over just yet. And the king is pretty close to the rim. Only 30 seconds. King e3. Wait, king there. It's still a draw, but it's starting to look very tricky. Bishop e5. Rook c5, trying to create some tricks. White will have to defend here for a long time, because it's going to be a rook versus bishop. Okay, he is moving the king into the right corner, but okay, there he goes. Maybe king d2. Okay, king to c3. Now, know you guys that it is a draw, because this king is in the opposite color of the bishop, in that corner. Black cannot make any progress here, but you still have to be careful. There are some tricks left here. Bishop e1. And it is still possible to lose this position, especially with the time. Okay, maybe check. Rook e2, played. King c3. This is a draw, you guys. Okay, you have to block with the bishop, but there's always the possibility for white to flag. Okay, king to b2, I guess, or king a2, check. All right, let's see. King c1, no! No, it's lost, rook f1. Rook f1, it's lost. No, wait, what? Why would you go here? I mean, rook g1, you win the bishop. You can literally pre-move this and pre-move checkmate. So Mkhitaryan wins his game as well. Bit lucky, because the endgame was a draw. But, you know, it's never easy with only 1 second increment. Let's see what other games we still have. Alright, actually that wraps up this round. So let's have a look at round number 2. Let's stick with our boy Dania. Dania is playing with the white pieces against 1800 strength, and we have a hippo defense. d5? Huh. Well, white can take the pawn, but black is planning to get it back with knight f6. But, I mean, bishop c4. Does black get it back though? Knight d7. Black wants to go here, hit the bishop, hit the pawn on d5. Let's see how Dania will deal with it. Generally, white is a little bit better if you play someone like bishop b3, knight b6, knight f3, black takes, but the structure is slightly better for white, and that is what Dania is going for. He goes knight f3, gives the pawn back, goes h3, stopping bishop g4 and c3. Bishop b6, rook to e1. Is Dania gonna sack? Come on, Dania. Do it for the fans. Satch. Alright. No exchanges were sacked in the position. It should be better for Dania, but let's see how this one will proceed. Maybe he's going to move out the bishop to d2 or g5, queen to d2. Should be a little bit better for white here. Know that Dania put the pawn on c3 and d4 to blunt the bishop on g7. Rook takes c6 is still a possibility, but I guess not really necessary. Dania could go for it, but he could just also just develop with bishop g5, queen to d2, and white should have quite a pleasant advantage. He goes knight to g5, hitting the bishop. I guess the bishop has to move back to the d7 square. Maybe he wants to go queen to f3. Knight could always hop back to e4, maybe heading for c5. So black goes knight to c7. If white trades, he wants to recapture with the knight. The bishop can also go to d5. So Dania trades and goes to queen to g4. Okay, now he's definitely looking to sack. And I think black needs to address that with maybe move like queen to d7 or queen d6. I don't quite think you can let white sack here. But let's see what 1800 strength has in mind. And yes, you guys, I am reading the chat. Your presence is appreciated here. Bishop f4 hitting knight. Knight to d5. Bishop e5, but he is trading in the bishop pair for a bishop versus knight advantage. However, it's not as big as an advantage of the bishop pair. Okay, so black goes e6, solidifying the position. Maybe Dania could go for h4, h5, and that is what he's going for. He wants to start attacking on the king side. So let's see what black is going to do here. Black could trade at some point on e5, then maybe after rook takes, bring the queen out of f6, and try to get a queen trade in. That makes a lot of sense. Dania also up 20 seconds, by the way. b4 played by black, hitting the pawn on c3. White could go c4, hitting the knight, if he doesn't want to deal with that, and that is what Dania plays. Where's the knight going to go? Maybe the b6, hitting this. The pawn on d4 also comes under attack. But I guess Dania just has it covered after a move like b3, and that is what he does. Knight to d7, hitting the bishop. I guess now you trade. Yep, rook to d1, making sure d4 is always protected. Knight could come to f6, hitting the queen. Rook a7. I guess he wants to do this and this, but maybe Dania could strike with d5, because look at this rook on a7. It's completely misplaced. If you take, all of a sudden there's queen d4 check, and you pick up the rook. Queen g3 played by Dania, but now black gets time for knight f6 and rook to d7. Knight f6 on the board. Let's see what Dania is going to do here. I feel like if black gets rook d7, black should be doing fine. But let's see what Dania has in mind. Time's evening up. Queen e5, pinning the knight. Okay, maybe just moving the rook. g4 can always be met with king to g8. Queen b8 played by black. Inviting a queen trade. I feel like black should be fine in the endgame, because also some of the white pawns are already fixed on the light square. So queen g5 played by Dania. Alright, let's see how black is going to proceed here. Maybe h6, hitting the queen. And where's the queen going to go all of a sudden? He goes to c5, hitting the pawn on c6. So maybe black has to move the rook in, defending that pawn. Both sides have around 1 minute and 25 seconds. So let's see what is going to happen here. Rook c8 played, defending the pawn on c6. And right now, I don't... Wait! No! Knight d7. Rook d7 played, but knight d7 would have trapped the queen. Queen e7 and rook e8, and there goes your queen. Rook d7 played, hang a pawn instead, rook a7. White has to be very careful. Knight d7. Knight d7 wins the queen. Queen e7, rook e8. The queen has nowhere to go. You'll lose your queen. Does he see it? Knight d7 on the board. Dania's queen is trapped. You cannot go anywhere. All these squares along the 5th ranked are covered. If you go here, rook e8, your queen is trapped. How is Dania trying to get out of here? Rook e8 played. Maybe something like this and hope for a miracle, but white should be lost here. Can Dania pull off a miracle here? He sacks his queen for just one rook, but knight f6, great move. Inviting more trades. Rook to e3, taking the pawn. Rook b2, d5. There's also knight g4 he takes. If you take, and Dania resigns. Tough loss for Daniel Naroditsky in round number 2. He goes down against 1800 strength after having his queen trapped. So, yeah. Tough. It's tough, you guys. Anyway, let's see what other games we have. Hikaru is still fighting out. Let's have a look at Jeffrey Zhang. Jeffrey's game looks approximately equal. He's up a pawn for the moment. However, this pawn on e6 is going to get lost. And black is sparing the threats on the king side, h4. Maybe g3, because after the trade, then your rook can infiltrate. So it's not over just yet. Both sides having around 40 seconds. Dania could have lost last game. But, yeah. Anyway, so you see trade here. Rook h7, hitting the pawn on a7. White having the slightly more active rook, so maybe white is still a tiny bit better. But it should be a draw objectively. Let's see how Jeffrey will try to work some magic here. He goes g4, a nice move, fixing the pawns on the king side. Now he wants to go king e3, sorry, and king to e4. King e5 played by black. Maybe king up. King e3 played. f5 maybe for black, but there's d4. And if trade, where are you going to go? King e6, rook here. Goes there, which is apparently a mistake. Jeffrey takes the pawn, but king e4, you got to play for activity. g4 played by black. Jeffrey up a pawn, but black has his own passer. It's got to be a draw here, you would think. How are you going to stop this pawn? King e2, probably just king d5. These pawns are not going anywhere just yet. Can Jeffrey work some magic here? Let's see. King to e2, maybe king d5, hitting the pawn. Rook g7 played. Okay, now take. White is still up a pawn here. White is still up a pawn. Black has to make the draw. Rook h5, good move. Threatening some checks here along the h-file. King d3, okay, but now check. King back. Check. The king has to go all the way back to b1, where it's very passive. However, there's rook g6. You can go after the pawns on the queen side. Let's see what black will do here. Maybe b5, rook g5, take, I guess. King c6 played. This pawn on d4 is very, very weak. How are you gonna defend it? I mean, check. Okay, king back. Rook b6 played. b4 check. He picks up the pawn, and b4 is still weak, so it's not over just yet. But rook h2, now you can keep checking him. That's not what he does. King c5. Rook d5. Okay, now if white were to check, white can go rook c2, and the game goes on. So we see here, white is up a pawn, but this should be a draw, but you never know. Let's see how Jeffrey's going to try. Check. And black just sits. Rook f3. Okay, you gotta keep sitting here. Just rook g3. Wait along the third rank. King back. Check. And rook back. It should be a draw. Let's see what it's gonna do. Rook h2, king f2. Okay, black is just waiting. Rook c3. Okay, rook h3. Can Jeffrey pull off a win here? b6, rook f5, but check. And rook back. Proven to be a very effective waiting strategy. Check. And oh, but take. Jeffrey's trying to win this endgame, but this is an easy theoretical draw. Okay, king okay, rook g5. Rook g5. Now the white king can never step up, so what you do is you wait here. You can offer the... Can you... You can take. King b6, king c4. It's a draw. Okay, king b5, and... There we go. Tough game, but... Jeffrey Zhang draws round number 2. So we already see some upsets early on. This should wrap up round number 3. No, there's still some games ongoing. We have Moroni, who's down 2 pawns. He's completely lost, but he's playing on here. King e6 to f7 looks like a pretty clean win. But white wants to win on autopilot. Oh, wait, no! Bruh. He literally fell for the last trick in the position. It's gotta hurt. In these kind of positions, you should always wonder, why is my opponent still playing on? And he did not think about that. And Moroni pulls off the last stalemate trick in the position. Anyway, here we have a very exciting rook versus rook endgame. Always a lot of fun. Stalling out the tournament. The one thing I will say though is that WP is pretty close to flagging on almost every move. He's moving with 2 seconds. Move. Okay, pre-move rook f6. At least make some pre-moves. Accumulate some time on the clock, and there we have a draw. This wraps up round number 3. So let's see what games we have. If we have a very quick look at the standings, we see that Hikaru is still on a perfect score. Vidit as well, Bogdan Dejic. So yeah, those are guys that are still on a perfect score. Mishanik, Dimitri Kolars, Yapi, Jordan Van Forest, Van Loreen, Greg Operin, and Elham as well. So let's see what matches we have in round number 3, which is going to start very, very shortly. Why did he not flag? Because there's a 1 second increment, you guys. Anyway, round number 3 should be starting soon. And we are off. Let's follow VD. Let's follow VD. We'll watch more of Hikaru later on in the tournament, But let's watch Vidit. So Vidit is playing with the black pieces against Vladimir Zakartsov. We have a Rui Lopez exchange. And what white is basically banking for is that white has a 4 versus 3 majority on the king side, and black only has a 3.5 versus 3 majority on the queen side. So white's basically arguing that he's half a pawn up. And I like this move, knight to d4. The knight is heading to f5 or e6 to create some tactics, maybe f4 as well at some point. So let's see what Vidit is going to do here. I mean, if queen e7, knight f5 is always annoying, I imagine. Queen e7, maybe the same thing, like knight f5. So let's see what Vidit is going to do. Queen to d7 played. I guess he's aiming for a long castle. Short castles is out of the question. Let's see what white is going to do. Knight f5 could be played. Bishop f3, bishop e3 as well. So let's see what is going to happen. So yeah. Alright, so knight f5 played by white, putting pressure on the bishop on d6. Let's see how Vidit will deal with it. Alright, bishop e5 played by Vidit. Okay, so let's see, rook moves out of the way and long castles. Okay, makes a lot of sense. I guess white should continue developing with a move like bishop to e3, and that's what he goes for. Maybe rook h8 by Vidit, bringing the rook into the game. I feel like white's position should definitely be preferred. White can go f4 at any moment, hitting the bishop. The bishop will have to drop back to d6. So I guess rook h8 is the move here. Bring another piece into position. Maybe king b8 can be played as well. The king would sit a bit safer over there. And rook d1 is not something you have to worry about, because you just give up your queen for the 2 rooks. So let's see what Vidit is going to do here. Bishop f4 played. Okay, nice move, offering a bishop trade. You could take black recaptures with the knight. That's one possibility. He does trade. Knight f4. Okay, so where does Vidit go with the knight? Maybe knight e6, knight h3 also possible. I guess knight... Although now that white has played g3, white could consider rook to b1. Rook to d1. Because if white trades, then you have king g2. There's no longer a back rank checkmate. And generally in the middle game, the queen is a bit better than the 2 rooks. So I like this move practically. So let's see what Vidit is going to do. I think he has to take. If you go to f7, white has a nice tactic. There's knight takes g7. So we see trade king to g2. This knight is under attack. So rook e8 is played. You have to defend it. h4, maybe g6 to get rid of this knight over here. g6 played. Where's the knight going to go? I guess the e3. Right, rook to d4, I guess. Hitting the queen, hitting the pawn. Queen c3. Okay, so if you take here, white takes on f6. Keeping the material balance. Or actually... black has a slight material advantage, because generally rooks are evaluated as 5 points and a queen is 9. So 2 rooks equals 10 points, a queen equals 9. So black's up 1 point, which is what we see here. So f3 by white, defending the pawn on e4. However, with more pieces on the board, the queen is generally better than the 2 rooks. So I feel like if black can exchange these 2 knights, that should increase black's advantage. But it's not easy. Nice move by Vidit. He goes h5, stopping knight g4 and also maybe creating a mating net around this king. If he could somehow get these 2 rooks on the second rank, he could go for checkmate. However, if you go rook d2, you hang this pawn, your knight's under attack, so you don't want to do that. So let's see what Vidit is going to do. King b8 played. Alright, so the king sits a little bit safer on the b8 square. Knight c4. Okay. Once again, you cannot move this rook because then you hang f6. So let's see what he's going to do. Maybe g5, trying to soften. Nice move by Vidit. If white takes, you take with the knight, I guess. Hitting the queen, hitting the king, sorry, and the pawn. Knight at e3 by white. Okay, now you can take, and white is a tough decision. If you take with the pawn, then knight f4 is going to be very nasty. So I guess you take with the king, which probably should still be fine. So let's see what Vidit is going to do. White wants to go knight f5, hit the rook. Once again, if the rook moves, we take the pawn on f6. So that's probably not what Vidit should do. Vidit, by the way, down to 20 seconds. You gotta go, dude. Takes on h4. Okay, king takes, I guess. You cannot take with the pawn, do the knight f4. King takes h4 on the board. Knight g7, defending the pawn, and stopping knight f5. Vidit should still be better, but let's see what's going to happen. Not easy to improve the position. King h3 by white. Alright, so let's see what's going to happen. Vidit 14 seconds. Rook d6. Okay. Defending this pawn over here. Makes sense. White could maybe go knight c4. Let's see what it's going to do. Let's see what it's going to do. White still has 1 minute on the clock, which is of course a lot more comfortable than 14 seconds. Knight c4, rook d4 on the board. Knight e3 by white. Rook d6. Is Vidit just going to go for the draw here, or is he just gaining time on the clock? a5 by white. Rook d4. Queen c5. Maybe he wants to go here. Or wait, he wants to go queen e7. Start attacking everything. Black has to stop that somehow. Maybe drop the rook back to d6, which is what Vidit does. But Vidit only 5 seconds on the clock. Knight c4, hitting the rook, rook e6. Let's see what white is going to do here to try to take advantage. Maybe queen e3 to h6. b4 play by white, strengthening the position. Rook e8, knight e3, hitting the rook e5, hitting the rook, hitting the queen. Queen c4 maybe to go here. Queen d4, he wants to go here. f5, nice move by Vidit, creating some counterplay. Rook e7, you could go e5, but now knight e6 and f4. Where are you going to go with the queen? Also, rook d8 now comes into the position. Vidit should be back in control here. Even after queen e3, you can still play f4, because after takes says rook f8, and you take with a huge attack. White down to 30 seconds. f4 by Vidit on the board. Takes rook f7. Knight takes f4 is coming. Rook to g8. Suddenly things are looking good for black. What is white going to do here? Knight to d2. Rook f4 hitting the pawn. Rook f8. Putting some pressure here. Maybe knight g5 at some point. King g2. King g3. King g2. King g2 played h4. Looks like a nice move for Vidit. King h2. He brings the king in. Now he could start going... Oh, wait. Queen a7. Queen a7 is a very tricky move. And all of a sudden, these pawns could easily drop off. Knight g5 by Vidit, hitting the pawn on f3. Let's see what... Okay, e6. He's already checkmate on 1. So Vidit takes the pawn. Now he takes here. a6 is going to drop off. Take the pawn. Take the pawn. You can come back. And then you start pushing this. Rook d5 by Vidit, hitting the knight. Knight e4. Now there's all sorts of tactics. But Vidit takes the pawn on f3. Queen e2, hitting the rook. Rook f4. But push the pawn. Push the pawn. How are you going to stop the pawn? Maybe... Okay, he goes there. a7. Rook a8. c4 hitting the rook. Where's rook on? Okay, rook d4, a7. Okay, knight f6, but king e7. And this, how are you going to defend the pawn on a7? And then the rooks are ready to attack. You're no flag. Wait, what? What was that? He just gave up his queen. Anyway, Vidit wins after a very up and down 4th round. Let's see what other games we have. So we have these two players are on 2 points. Let's check in with Jeffrey. Oh, let's check in with Dania. Oh, Dania is on 1 out of 3, but he's gonna win the game here because this pawn is unstoppable, and Dania wins his game. So Dania moves to 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3. This round is still ongoing. 1 random. I think this is Aaron Jacobson, Brandon's brother, but this should be a draw. So let's see. JC Barra trying to push for the win, but it's not gonna happen, unfortunately, because the position is a dead draw. There's nothing black can do. Everything in the white position is defended. So at some point the 50 move rule is gonna kick in. Dania did lose a game earlier on. He's on 2 points out of 3 games, but he can still come back. It's not over for him just yet. Rook c4, king d2, but this one's got to be a draw. Should be 3 played. Here comes the king, maybe king up. I also do play in Title Tuesdays myself. Alright, so suddenly white is going for the win because the king is on the rim. But it's not going to happen. But you never know. Don't give a check. Okay, check is fine. G5. But yeah, this game is just going to end in a draw. This game is just going to end in a draw. I don't know at what point the 50 move rule is going to kick in. And it's a draw. due to the 50 move rule. Anyway, this wraps up round number 3, which is going to start shortly. Let's have a very quick look at the standings. We see that Gupta is still in a perfect score, Didici as well, Hikaru as well, Duboff. So lots of players still on a perfect score, 25 to be exact. And round number 4 has just taken off. Let's see. Let's have a look at the game of. Let's watch Big Fish. Big Fish, as his name indicates, is a pretty big player, rated over 3,000 and around 2,700 in classical chess. And he's playing the Karakan here. So e6, he's delaying the move knight gf6. I wonder what the idea behind that is. But white usually goes for queenside castling here, knight f6. And generally, white is a little bit better because white has a bit more space, but black is very solid. He could also go for kingside castling, but I feel like this is not the move. Okay, so here's the thing. Black usually after black goes kingside castles, you go for g4 to go for an attack. But I feel like here it's a bit premature because black still can go here. But Big Fish gives back the pawn, because if white takes, you're forced to recapture with the knight. White could take here. There's knight h5 though, but I guess after someone like rook h7, things are a bit tricky. Because actually I don't see it. Big Fish has to recapture with the knight. We take on g7, and then there's no easy moves. Because if you castle, you hang f7. That's not great. If you take here, I guess someone like rook h7. Once again, if you go queenside castles, you hang f7, and white should be better. Alright, so bishop f8 played, hitting the rook. The rook has to move back, let's say to g1, and then black can go castles. So black should be fine here approximately. He's playing against Kazar Babazada, a young Azeri player. So let's see what's going to happen here. The 50 move rule applies when no capture has been made or no pawn move. So let's see, bishop f8 played. So let's see where white is going to go with the rook. I guess the g1. And just take it from there. This is Fedoseev, yeah. Vladimir Fedoseev, Russian Grandmaster. So let's see where he's going to go with his rook. Gotta go, dude. He's taking a bit too long here. He's taking a minute. While the difference between, let's say, rook g2 and rook g1 shouldn't be too big. So rook g1 played on the board. Long castle by Big Fish, knight e5. Alright, so he wants to go queen f3, hit the knight, and put pressure on this pawn on f7. Not easy to deal with as black. So let's see. I definitely like white's position, because this pawn on h6 is fixed by the pawn on h5. It's always a weakness. This pawn on f7 is always under pressure. Bishop d6 by Big Fish, hitting the knight on e5. Let's see what white is going to do. I think there are prizes for the top 5. We'll talk about that in. We'll talk about that later. So queen f3 by white. So I guess if black takes and takes, white wants to go bishop c3, hitting the queen and the knight on f6, and white should be winning. So black, he takes, but I don't think you can take this pawn. Bishop c3 takes, king takes. Somehow white should be winning, I guess. So let's see what Big Fish is going to do in the current position. Maybe move the knight, but if you go to d5, c4, your knight is lacking a good square. This is always under attack, this is always under attack, so white should be quite a bit better. Let's see what Big Fish will do. Not an easy position, because if you go with the knight here, you hang f7, and that's also not good. So, let's see. Not an easy decision here for Big Fish. Or is he going to go with the knight? I guess to d5. c4, maybe still knight b6, because this is under attack, e5 is under attack. So black has some tactical possibilities there. But the main problem for black in the current position is that this knight on f6 is lacking stability. But let's see where he's going to go. He takes the pawn on e5. Wait, bishop c3, trades, rook takes. Okay, so queen g5, but bishop d2. Okay, queen e5 has to be played, or queen g7. So let's see, after bishop c3, it feels like white should have more. But white played bishop d2 instantly, which is a bit surprising. Queen h4, okay, bishop c3, I guess, hitting the knight. And then after queen g5, there's got to be something. Maybe queen e3. Because if you go king b1, black gets e5. Right, so let's have a look. So bishop c3, queen g5, queen e3. If you trade, you're still in this pin. e5 doesn't help, I just take the pawn and you lose. So I guess that should be winning for white. Let's see, bishop c3, queen g5, queen e3. Played, bishop c3 played. Queen g5, queen e3. I guess if e5, maybe just take anyway. Doesn't change the position. You don't want to trade here first and then take, because then black gets rook h6. But I think queen e3 is just winning. After king b1, maybe black still has some tactic. Although I don't... black goes e5. But queen e3 should be winning. Does he find queen e3? Queen e3 wins the game. King b1, but now e5. Rook e1. Black can go rook e8, defending the pawn. And all of a sudden, Big Fish is up a pawn here. h5 is also weak. So let's see what Khazar is going to do here. a4 played. Okay. Rook e6. Okay, so he's defending the knight, so now he can take it with the queen. Because the rook does the defensive job. So all of a sudden, it's looking pretty good for Big Fish. Queen d3 played. He wants to go here, create some checkmating ideas. Big Fish takes the pawn. Maybe rook d1. Black always has knight d5 though. So let's see. Okay, bishop a5, threatening checkmate in 1. Here. Rookie. Okay, knight d5, c4 maybe. Hitting the knight, but there's e4 for black. But wait, what happens if you just move the queen? Queen d4, and where's the knight gonna go? It could go to b6 maybe, but that feels very risky after someone like check. Wait, rook d1 is not a move. I guess we go rook d1 right away. And threaten this. Rook e8 we take. And queen e7 and we win. Tough. Black has no time. How are you going to defend the pawn? How are you going to defend the knight on... He goes knight c7. Maybe rook d1. Anyway, how are you going to defend? Queen d1 and queen d7 are the threats. b6 played by black, but check. And here, queen e5 though, defending everything. Then there's bishop c3. So maybe queen h2. Queen h2 played by Big Fish, defending the knight on c7. Bishop e4. White wants to go here. c5 played for that reason. Bishop d2, rook c6. Big Fish bring in all his defensive forces. Okay, now queen d6. He brings the queen back. Maybe rook d7. You gotta keep the queens on the board. Although you could also take a bishop f4, which looks nasty. But black still has rook c6 to defend. Black is up a pawn here, but white should be able to draw. He can take this pawn, but I don't think anything more. Okay, he gives a check and takes a pawn. Okay, knight e6. Knight coming to d4. But white should be better here. This pawn at e4 is weak. King e5 by Big Fish defending it. Check. King goes back. Rook h4. King f5. Check. King g4 maybe. Rook e5. King f3 now. King suddenly getting active. And king e2. The king come around at d3 from where it would also hit this pawn. Big Fish has turned this one around. Knight d4. Bring the knight into the game. The rook can also swing in. Rook g6. Suddenly looking good for Big Fish. Maybe bring the rook in like this. Rook g1. a6 fixing this pawn here. So Big Fish brings the rook back. Rook d5 played by white. Rook f7. Rook d6. King e2. Okay, maybe you can trade, but... Okay, rook there. Knight c6. Nice move. Knight b4 now. Hitting this pawn and going to d3. King f3 by Big Fish. Defending the pawn on e4. Rook d8 and black takes the pawn. Okay, now you hang this one as well. Takes, but Big Fish should be winning here. Rook f4 should be winning, I guess. Rook e7. And one way or another, you should be able to pick up this pawn and black should be winning. Rook takes f2 and king e3. Gives up the pawn, but rook b2 going after this one. 8 seconds for Big Fish. King d3, threatening checkmate. White gives a check here. Rook e7, not over just yet. How are you going to defend the pawn on e4? Check. Maybe just take. White takes here with king c2 and b3, b2. b3 played. b2, rook h1, c5. Okay, white. Rook h4, nice move. b2, c6, b1. And this king is cut off. This king is cut off. That's the main problem. And Big Fish wins round number 4. So yeah, Fedoseev still on a perfect score. Very up and down game, but he manages to pull through in the end. Let's see if there are still any more games in progress. We also have Abhijit Gupta, one of the leaders, but he's defending a 2 rooks versus knight endgame here, which should be a draw. I guess you just keep the rook on the c file, and how is white ever going to make progress? You just keep on giving checks. Rook trade doesn't really bother black. This should be a draw. So yeah, Abhijit Gupta is going to concede his first draw of the tournament. But of course, 3.5 out of 4 is still a good score. So I guess this one will end in not too long. We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, king of 5. At some point the 50 move rule is gonna kick in here as well. White has of course every right to try and win, but against a strong grandmaster like Abhijit Gupta, it's unlikely. So let's see what he's gonna try. King d5 hangs a rook. Okay, yeah. Now with the king sitting in the center, it feels like it's very unlikely. I don't know at what move the 50 move rule is gonna kick in. It's gonna kick in around move. I don't know. Just wait and see. Let's see. The rooks were traded at move 89. So at move 139, the 50 move rule will kick in, and they are at move 114. So 25 more moves will be played. Rook g8. Can white pull off a win here? I doubt it, but you never know. So let's have a very quick look at the standings in the meantime. So as we see, Bogdan Dejic is still on a perfect score. Big Fish also on a perfect score. Mishonik, Alexis Serrano, Dimitri Kolar, Sanan Shigurov, Dulas, Daniel Duboff, Ranik Sadwani, Gawain Jones, and Nemejas are all on 4 out of 4. So that those are 9 players. Hikaru already conceded his first round of the tournament. But with all that being said and done, you guys, we will be taking our very first break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back with more action from Title Tuesday. I'll see you then. welcome back to this week's Late Title Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Benjamin Bach, and it's my pleasure to be bringing you all the action. Alright, so round number 5 has just taken off. Let's see who we are going to watch. Let's watch Mishanik. I don't think we've watched too much of him just yet. He's playing against Nemageas from Lithuania. So that's going to be a fun game. So Mishanik opens up with pawn at d4. And I saw some of you guys asking in the chat, what are the prizes for this tournament? Let's pull it up real quick. So if we have a look, we see that Title Tuesday is now happening two times on Tuesday. There is a first prize of $1,000, second prize of $750, third place is $500, fourth place is $150, fifth place is $100. There's also a top woman's prize and a top streamer's prize. So lots of good stuff. And here's the format, you guys. It's happening every Tuesday. The first event is happening at 8 a.m. Pacific, and the second event at 2 p.m. Pacific. Anyway, with all that being said and done, let's go back to the game. So we have a Grunfeld here. So white provoked this move f6 and bishop e3. So knight c6 by black, h4 by white, trying to put pressure here on the king side. Very, very aggressive approach by Mishanik. Let's see how black will deal with this. Maybe trade on d5 and go bishop g4, putting pressure on the knight and stopping h5 from white. So let's see. How is top streamer decided? I believe they just look at the streamer who finished highest. So let's see. h4 has been played before, but black seems to be thrown off here. Let's see what Nemetje. Okay, he goes h5, but this always softens the pawn on g6. So this inclusion should favor white. Let's see what white is going to do here. Maybe bishop d3, because then after this trade you hit the pawn on g6, which is what Mishanik does. And if black takes twice, then after bishop c4 you lose your rook because it's pinned. Alright, so b6 by black. Okay, so if you take black wants to go c4 and win back the piece. White could also just decide to castle here. Let's see what Mishanik has in mind. He's up 40 seconds on the clock, so the opening has definitely been a success here. Alright, and the total prize money I believe then comes down to $5,000 in weekly prizes, so $2.5 grand per Title Tuesday. So big shout out to Chesscom for doing all that. Alright, so Mishanik is thinking in the current position. Let's see what he's gonna do. He knows that he can take the knight, but then black's gonna go c4, so that's probably not to his liking. So let's see, castles also make sense. He is down a bit of time here. He goes castles. Okay, so let's see what black's gonna do. Maybe bishop a6 was what black wanted, because then once again, if white takes, you hang your bishop, and after this whole trade, well, okay, black trades on d5, knight e7. Okay, so I guess black's happy to get the queen trade in, d6 by white. Now the knight has to go at f5, because if you take bishop c4 check and you lose your rook, right, and you cannot hang the pawn on g6. So knight f5 seems to be the only move. White could just go bishop f4, defending the pawn on d6, then bring in the rook on the next move, and overall white should be doing pretty well here. This king feels pretty airy over here on g8. Queen on a5 is a bit out of place as well. So let's see what black's gonna do. Maybe queen a4. Bishop a6 is, I guess, out of the question, because then you take the knight on a5. Bishop d7. Okay, now rook fe1 looks like a nice move. Bring the rook into the game. And potentially white could do something like taking here and rook e7. Rook e8 played by black. Okay, let's see what white is going to do here. White should have a very nice advantage. Okay, so the evil bar is shown that white has a huge advantage, plus 3.3. But the material is equal, so nothing is decided here already. So let's see what Mishanik is going to do. He could maybe decide to trade on f5, because if black recaptures, that allows d7. If If you move your rook, then you get rook e7, and all of a sudden, once again, we go after the black king. He goes bishop c4, king h7, bishop f7, hitting the rook. But now maybe black can take. Right, and now black gets some time to stabilize. Queen a4, nice move, making sure this bishop is always under attack, and the queen come back to b6. Okay, bishop b3. Actually, if queen c6, there's bishop d5, and you collect the rook on a8. So let's see where he's going to go. Maybe the b5. Right, queen b5 played. White should still be better here. Maybe still this plan of bishop c2, trading the knight, and then going rook e7, going after the black king. Queen d5 also an option. He goes rook e4. Huh. I wonder what that... Oh, he's threatening... No, bishop a4 is not a threat, because of queen auto... No, I guess it is. This is a threat, which is why rook d8 was played, making sure bishop on d7 is always defended. And now the rook on e4 feels a bit loose, so let's see what Michnik is going to do here. I mean, now all of a sudden, if you make a move like queen d5, there's bishop c6, and you lose your bishop. So, bishop a4, okay, check. Here the queen is trapped, so the queen has to move. Either the a5 or a6. So let's see where he's going to go. Queen a6 played by black. Okay, we see a trade. Rook e8. He wants to go queen d5 and queen g8, so maybe queen c4 by black, stopping that. And all of a sudden, this pawn on d6 could turn into a weakness. Rook c8, maybe rook c7, trading the rooks, because if black takes, you take, and all of a sudden that c pawn is very dangerous. Okay. 20 seconds for black. Queen e6 on the board. He's hitting the pawn on d6, so rook c7, bishop f8. Huh. What should white do here? How do you make progress? c4? But wait, isn't he just hanging a pawn here? Bishop d6. That looks like a free pawn. d6. Can black take the pawn? 9 seconds for black. Is he going to take? He takes the pawn. Knight takes rook c6, creating a pin. But is it enough? White's just out a pawn here, I believe. Queen e7, getting out of this pin. Queen f4, knight f5, nice move by black. And all of a sudden, this rook on c6 could get trapped. Queen b8, check. King h2, and rook d8, hitting the queen. Black's up a healthy pawn here. Can he convert? 5 seconds for black, though. Queen f4, rook d7, g4. We see trade h5 by white is coming in now. Knight g7 to stop it. 11 seconds for Michnik. Alright, rook c8, rook c7 going for the rook trade. Because he wants to creep rooks on the board. Rook b8, but now check. King g2, rook e7, hitting the rook on b8. Queen c8, threatening checkmate, rook e8. And now black collects the queen for a rook and a knight. Queen e7, threatening here and picking up the pawn on c4. Black should be winning here. Queen c4, rook e7, king up, I guess. Check, and oh, it's over. King g2, you take the knight. And Michnik is going to lose this game because now he also lost the rook. So, Michnik, tough loss here in round number 5. And Nemegas is still on a perfect score. So let's see what's happening in the other games. We see that Dmitry Kollars managed to win. So it is... Wait, where are the games? Alright, we have Bogdan Dejac against Raunak. Let's see what's happening here. Apparently, black is up a pawn, but can he make progress? That was apparently not the move. How do you ever break through here? White is just going to wait. And if you ever go king up, white goes king up. So you're just going to wait on g3 and h3. There's no way to make progress. And this game is going to end in a draw. King h3, you just wait, king up. And a draw was agreed by repetition. So both Bogdan Dejac and Raunak moved to 4.5 out of 5. Only half a point behind the leaders. Let's see what other games we have. We have the big boss against Jabarok. Jabarok up the exchange, but can he convert? Knight f6 check. King g7, rook e7. Maybe check. Where's the king gonna go? Maybe check. Maybe bring in the other rook at some point, although that does allow rook e8, king e5, rook c4, hitting the pawn. Okay, rook here. Is under attack, knight e4, nice move. Okay, but the knight is nicely holding everything. Defending these pawns over here, the rook is defending the knight. And now this king and pawn are also pretty active. So here he goes, c6, c7. Should be a draw. Black takes, but white is too far advanced. There's nothing really can do. c7. That feels like it's the wrong way. Knight d6. Okay, if take, there's here. We're going, but c7, c7. Wait, rook c1. Knight c4. The rook is blocked. White's gonna get a new queen, and white's gonna win the game. Man, huge blunder here by Jabarok, but it's all over. Wait, this was winning on the spot. Queen f7, knight e5. And the big boss pulls off a miracle and wins with the white pieces against Yabarok. Moves to 3 knight out of 5. Let's see what other games we have. I think this wraps up round number 5. So if we have a very quick look at the standings, we see that only 2 players are on a perfect score, Dimitri Colors and Neme Chess. They will probably play each other in round number 6. Behind them is a huge pack with players on 4 knight out of 5, including Hikaru. Anyway, let's have a look at this game between Neme Chess and Dimitri Colors. So we see a Callan here. Black takes the pawn on c4. White usually goes queen c2 or queen a4, trying to get the pawn back. Let's see what black has in mind here. I guess, okay, goes b6. White can take, but then black goes bishop b7. The idea is to neutralize this bishop on g2 on the long diagonal, and then go knight d7, rook c8, and c5, c5. And black is generally doing quite okay. So knight c3 by white, knight to d7. Okay, rook d1, maybe rook c8 and c5. Black should be doing alright in this position. c5 played right away. If white takes, you want to take with the bishop, maybe put your queen on e7. And black shouldn't really have anything to worry about here. The position will probably become quite symmetrical. Dimitri Colors up a little bit of time on the clock. Bishop f4 played by white. Let's see what black's going to do here. Rook c8, queen a4, hitting the pawn on a7, maybe a6, so you prepare b5. Queen can come out of b6, and I would already slightly prefer black's position, because the queen sits quite comfortably here. Knight e5 played, b5 hitting the queen. Where's the queen going to go? I guess to b3. Black could trade here on any moment, and okay, I guess you trade. White has to recapture. Right, you have to recapture. Now let's see, maybe c4 or trade. If you trade in d4, the position will be symmetrical. If you go for c4, you get some sort of majority on the queen side. So let's see if he's feeling optimistic here. Alright, he's taking his time, queen b6. White could trade on d7 now. Maybe take on c5, but after knight takes, black should still be quite a bit better. d5 played by white, nice move. c4, queen c2. Maybe knight c5. And if white takes, you take with the queen. Black should be doing pretty fine. Let's see what he is going to do. Alright, time's evening up. Both players have around 2 minutes. And, so yeah. And by the way, just as a quick side note, Hikaru is playing Chesscom. So e5 played by black, hitting the bishop. I guess the bishop has to move to e3, hitting the queen. There's no other squares really. I mean, you could go to d2, but there it feels a bit passive. Bishop e3 played. Bishop c5. We could see a trade of bishops here, but black should be doing pretty fine. I mean, he has this nice majority on the queen side, and white has sort of a dilemma. If he goes e4, strengthening the pawn on d5, then black always has knight to d3. And if you go d6, then the pawn becomes quite weak. So let's see what he's going to do. This bishop on e3 is currently under attack. You have to address that somehow. So I guess he just has to take. Can't really... Okay, bishop d... What happens if black... Huh. Wait, bishop f2... Oh, bishop f2, queen f5. Bishop f2, queen f5. Hitting the knight, hitting the bishop, and white wins. So you cannot do that. Let's see what Dimitri Colors is going to do instead. He could maybe play a move like f5. Expanding here on the king side and in the center. Looks pretty pleasant for black. Let's see if he's going to go for that. And f5 on the board. Now this is a threat. If you go e3, e4, knight e5 to d3. Looks pretty good for black. f3 maybe, but that also doesn't feel great. So let's see. I mean, this pawn isn't... Other question is this pawn really under attack? Bishop e1 played. Okay, how's black going to improve the position here? Maybe e4, so the knight can come out of e5. Looks pretty pleasant. Black should be a little bit better here. Let's see what he has in mind. Both sides have around 1 minute and 15 seconds on the clock. e4 played by black. Okay, now the knight is ready to come out of e5. Maybe come out of g4, hit this pawn over here. Once again, it's looking pretty pleasant for Dimitri Colors. I don't know if he has won Title Tuesday yet, so it would be big for him to win this one. Knight e5 played, so if you take, he wants to take with the knight. So let's see what's going to happen here. Alright, we see a trade on c4. Knight's looking pretty active here. So the pawn on d5 can be a weakness. So queen b3 played by white. Let's see. Maybe just moving the bishop out of the way. Or queen g6. A more aggressive approach. He wants to go f4 and f3 and go for checkmate. It's not easy for white to stop. How are you going to stop the move f4? I don't see a d6. Maybe trying to create some magic along this diagonal. But maybe black can just ignore it with f4. You could also take the pawn, by the way. But he goes f4. He wants to go for checkmate. d7. Okay, what if you just move the rook to block the pawn? f3 played by black. Trade. If this queen ever lands on h3, it's going to be checkmate. So very tricky position for white. White only has 35 seconds. Black still has just a little bit less than a minute on the clock. So looking pretty good for black here. King h1. Okay, rook d8. Now once again, queen f5, queen h3, queen g2 is what he's looking at. How can white stop it? He sacks the knight. Okay, take though. You have to take, I guess, because otherwise you lose the knight. And I guess white wants to take, hitting the bishop and the knight. But black could go queen e6, and if you take the bishop, then queen h3. You take here, so let's see. The straight has to happen. Queen e6 is a move, because if you take the bishop, queen h3, queen c4, knight e3 played, nice move. So if you take the knight, I guess he wants to go f2 and hit the bishop and actually also threaten checkmate. So let's see what white is going to do here. Only 14 seconds for white. Very, very tough position. 10, 9, 8 seconds. You got to go, dude. You got to go. He trades. He takes f2 on the board. King h8 now. Got to go. Bishop a5 hitting the rook. Wait, check. There's still e4. It's almost checkmate, but not quite yet. Can Dimitri Colors come up with a trick here? Let's see. Black should be winning somehow, but not easy. 18 seconds for black now. Black also getting very low on the clock. Queen c6 check. e4 only move. Takes the pawn. So after trade. Okay. He wants queen h3 maybe. King g2. This pawn is suddenly under control. Rook f1 coming in. Queen g4. Threatening checkmate. Queen d3 by white. Blocking the checkmate. h5 wants to go h4. h3 by white though. He's still hanging on. Bishop c7 defending the pawn. White's doing an amazing job with only 2 seconds on the clock. And Dimitri Colors also suddenly has 7 seconds. Rook e8 hitting the pawn on e4. Queen d5 hitting the bishop. Queen e4. We see a trade here. Trade. And suddenly it's going to be a draw. White can take here. Rook a2. And all ends peacefully. Very up and down game. Dimitri Colors had huge chances to win this one and take the lead. But it seems like he's let it slip. Bishop c5. There's still rook f1. And white is defending. So let's see. I guess we'll just see a draw here. Maybe he can still try to push. King g4. Check. King f3. Bishop d6. It's got to be a draw. But you never know with only a couple seconds on the clock and only a 1 second increment. Bishop f6. You move the king up. Rook e3. But it's got to be a draw. Okay. Check, I guess. King up. Nothing really that both sides can do. So, yeah, they're just shuffling back and forth, but I don't really think anything is going to happen here in this game. Bishop d4. This one's going to be a draw, unless a miracle happens, which is not what I expect, but we'll see. f3, and everything gets traded off. Yeah. f3, king h4, king g2, and we see a draw here but in the game between Neme Kejas and Dimitri Colors. So that gives the other players the chance to catch up. Right, so let's have a look at what happened. We see that Dimitri Colors is still in the lead, Bogdan Dejic as well, and Hikaru has caught up. He's now sharing the lead with 5.5 out of 6. Nemege Jazz also still in the lead, Badur Jabava and Abjit Gupta. So let's see. We still have this game going on. White should be winning, but it's not over just yet. Okay, rook f6. And king g6. You collect the pawn on g5. Black's entire king side is collapsing. Could even trade here. King f6, pre-move, and it's over. So pawn Kratov moves to 5 out of 6, only half a point behind the leaders after this win. And is that their last game of the round? Let's have a look. Yes, it is. So round number 7 is gonna start very soon. Let's have a look at the game. Let's see, which game are we gonna have a look at? I expect Hikaru to stay at the top, so I'll have a look at his game later. Let's have a look at the game between Duboff and Neem Gajaz. Alright, and they're gonna start shortly. So Duboff only half a point behind the leaders. Probably a must-win game for him. Let's see what he can do with the white pieces here. Duboff, Machek. Duboff. Where's Duboff? Wait, where's Duboff? Did he think there was a break? Wait, did he? No, he didn't disconnect. He has 4 bars. It says excellent connection. This would be a very lucky win for Neem Gajaz if he wins by forfeit. Because, I mean, playing with black against Duboff is a very, very tough pairing. But let's see. Where's Mr. Duboff? Wait, is he here? Oh no, not like this. Getting down to a minute though. Even if he does make it in time, he will have a huge disadvantage. Berserking, aha. So if he takes 1 minute to 3 minute odds, maybe he gets... Wait, he moved exactly at 1 minute. Did he do that on purpose? There's no way, right? D4, knight f3. C4. Okay, Duboff trying to catch up here. D5 played by black. Let's see, we see trade on D5, E4. Trade on C3, C5, bishop B5 check. Okay, so knight C6 is the tarry here. Bishop D7 is also a move. Okay, knight C6. Castles. Because black's going to castle as well. Black is generally doing fine here in this line, but he has to know the exact theory. So Duboff trades and goes queen to c2. Black could trade and then take, but I guess after rook d1, white should be a little bit better. So let's see what Neem Gajaz is going to do here. If you play a move like bishop g4, white actually very often does take this pawn on c5. So queen a5, a4 by Duboff. He wants to go bishop a3, hit the pawn on c5, and hit the pawn on e7. Bishop g4 by black, putting pressure on the knight. Knight e5, hitting the bishop and then in the pawn. So after this whole transition, it looks pretty pleasant for Duboff, but he has only a minute against 2.5 from black. Okay, rook d8 played, bishop g5, hitting the pawn on e7, maybe just rook d7 to defend. And as black, you generally are not too thrilled to give this bishop here, because now black does have some weaknesses around the king. So queen c7, defending the pawn on e7 and hitting the pawn on e5, h3 by Duboff. If you take an e5, there's f4, bishop b6, I guess f4, you defend the pawn and you prepare f5 in some cases. So, pretty pleasant position, bishop c4, hitting the rook, rook f3, also guarding the d3 square. I don't know if he was trolling, but he moved exactly at 1 minute, so you never know. Let's see what's going to happen here. The position does look better for Duboff, but only 44 seconds against 2 minutes from black. Let's see what's going to happen here. Black has to try to create counterplay somehow. Maybe rook d7, rook d8, and rook to d2 is a plan. Or put the other rook on the open file, rook b8 played. Right, what's Duboff going to do here? Queen f2, hitting the pawn on c5, bishop d3. Nice move, hitting the pawn on e4. Rook e1 to defend. Let's see. Very tricky position. You could go c4, anchoring in the bishop, then maybe bring the rook later on. c4 by black. Yeah. Queen h4, hitting the pawn. How are you going to defend? Maybe rook d7? But all of a sudden now, the weaknesses around the black king are starting to be felt. Because if you're not careful, queen h6, bishop f6, trade, queen d7, checkmate. So let's see what black is going to do here. Time is evening up. Duboff has 40 seconds. Black has 1 minute and 15 seconds. So I feel like if Duboff was not 2 minutes late, he would have had 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The situation would have been a lot different. But what happened? Let's see. I guess rook d7 or rook b7 has to be played. But it looks very tricky for black here. Let's see what he's going to do. Doesn't have any easy moves here. Rook d7 played. Okay, queen h6. He wants to go here. And after this trade, there will be checkmate. So let's see what black's going to do. Also, there's a 5 all of a sudden. Things are looking very, very tricky for black. Duboff could easily crash through here on the king side. So maybe you have to go queen d8. So after this, you can take the pawn. But if you go here, then you'll have 5. So not easy for black. King h8. Huh. That was not a good move apparently. Maybe f5. If takes, take. And it's played by Duboff. If you take, then we take. And rook f7, and this cannot be defended. Let's see what black can do. I mean, this is a huge threat. f6 is also always in a position. And black now down to 17 seconds. This would be quite insane if Duboff wins this game after coming 2 minutes late. Queen 8 f6. He's threatening checkmate here. You cannot take due to this. Maybe queen f8, but you can just take, I guess, and take. And you take the pawn on f7. He takes the pawn. Rook e8. Rook takes f7. White's crushing here. He has this triple pawn here. e6. Alright, the rook's under attack. Rook d8. Bishop h6. And rook f8 is going to be checkmate. So, very nice win by Duboff. After coming 2 minutes late, but he wins very convincingly here. With the white pieces and moves to 6 points out of 7 games. Let's see what he can do in this title Tuesday. Alright, so that is Duboff. He wins this game. Let's see what's happening in the other games. Hikaru is playing against Jobava, but it's looking tough for Hikaru. This pawn on g2 is extremely strong. There's no way you can somehow create any tactics against the black king. Queen e2 play to defend this pawn. Jobava's got to be winning here, but how can he convert? g2, g1 is still defended. Queen c2. Wait, g1, take everything, and knight e2. Check, and you pick up the rook. Jobava's winning here. It's going to be upper rook, but can he convert? Hikaru's going to try to cook up some tricks. So if you take queen c5, threatening checkmate on a7. Maybe you have to give the rook. He gives a check. Gives with the rook. Now white is threatening a perpetual. So queen f8 play, queen g4, hitting the knight. Knight f3 maybe. Okay, takes the pawn on e6. Not over just yet. If you take this pawn here, you take the pawn on h3. Queen d8. Trying to go queen to d3. Hikaru takes the pawn. Black takes the pawn over here. Okay, black's got to be winning here, but how? Queen d5, queen c5, queen c5. Yeah. It's not over just yet. You can trade the pawns. h4. There goes the pawn. But check h5, h6, knight f7, h7, king e5. But is Hikaru in time? King e4. Here comes the black king. Take, and d4. This pawn is going to roll down the board. King b6. But I don't think Hikaru's in time. d1, queen a6, queen e5, and Hikaru resigned. It's going to be extremely tough for Hikaru. He is on 5.5 out of 7. He has to win his last 4 games. And then it might still not be enough due to his bad tiebreak. Tough loss here against Badur Jobava. Alright, let's see what other games we have. So we also have Vidit, who wins his game. So Vidit moves to... I don't know, but if we have a quick look at the standings, we see that Gupta and Jobava are in the lead with 6.5 out of 7. They will probably play each other in round number 8. Let's see if there's still any more games in round number 7. This round should be wrapping up shortly. We still have Raunak, who has a nice endgame here. Look, the pawns are equal, but look at black's pawns. They're on e3 and f3. They are moving down the board. White's pawns were not moving anywhere, so Raunak wins this game and moves to 5.5 out of 7. Still has a chance. Let's see, we still have a game here. White's going to win. He's going to collect everything. Black's having a tough time finding the resign button. So WP is going to win the game. We'll just have to wait for this one to end. This is the last game of the round. And then we'll have round number 8. Once again, if we have a look at the standings, Gupta and Jobava are in the lead. Then there's a pack with players on 6 out of 7. Dania Naroditsky pulled off a nice comeback after the loss in the second round. He's on 6 out of 7 as well. Anyway, round number 8 is going to start any moment now. So let's have a look at the game between Gupta and Jobava. This one is going to determine who will be the leader going into the final 3 rounds. And we have e4 by Jobava, c5 by Gupta, knight f3, d6, bishop e5 check. Alright, and knight d7 by Gupta. White has some possibilities here. Castles is a move, c3, d4, lots of options. Let's see which one white is going to go for. He's taking his time here. And once again, I just wanted to give a big shout out to all of you who are watching here on Twitch, on YouTube, or anywhere else. Thanks for tuning in. Alright, so c4 by Jobava. He wants to go for a Maraxi bind. So black could go e5. Then the position will become a bit more closed. Let's see if he's going to do that. If he doesn't, then white will probably play d4 at some point in time. Knight f6, hitting the pawn, d3 by Jobava. Maybe g6, putting the bishop on the long diagonal. Looks pretty pleasant for black, and that's what he's going for. b3 by Jobava, putting the bishop on b2 to neutralize. I guess now we castle. Alright, so castle on the board, knight to c3. White wants to go for d4, but b5 by black, gaining space on the queen side and discouraging the move d4. Because if you go d4 here, you have to deal with an isolated pawn. Rook e1 by Jobava, slowly but surely improving the position. Let's see what black's going to do here. Maybe something like knight h5. So then, knight h5, I like that move a lot. So now you can go e5 and f5. Now you could also come the f4, e6 and d4. Rook b1 by Badur. Defending the bishop on b2. b4 by black. Where's the knight going to go? Knight to d5. Okay, e6 by black, hitting the knight. We see trade. King takes and knight to e3. Maybe now it's time to go e5 and f5. Bishop c6, nice move. Stopping d4 from white. Alright. If you go a3, black always answers with a5, and black has quite a pleasant advantage, because black simply has more space. a4 by white. Maybe now it's time to go for f5 at some point. a5, just strengthening the position, slowly but surely. So let's see what Gupta is going to try to do here to try and improve. Okay, queen to d2. f5 maybe. I like f5 a lot, because now if white takes, black can take the knight on f3, and that forces white to ruin his kingside structure. So, but on the other hand, how are you going to defend the pawn on e4? You could go knight f1, but that looks quite weakening. He takes, Gupta takes on f3, and we see a piece sacrifice by Jobava. But does this work? Okay, his idea is if bishop c6, e7, forking the queen and the rook, and if you take, then knight f5, check, and you pick up the queen. So you cannot move the bishop back, but black has to move queen g5. You cannot take the bishop because it's pinned, and e7 you just move the rook. If black finds queen g5, it's just over. Queen g5 is just game over. Does Gupta find the move? Queen g5 on the board, and Jobava's just lost here. e7, the rook has to move, I guess, to e8, hitting the pawn on e7. Jobava down a piece here. Can he pull off a miracle? There's still a move. There's h4. h4 is the only move to stay in the game. Forcing the queen away, and then you can take this bishop here. And even though black is a lot better, it's not over just yet. He takes the bishop, takes on f3. And now if you take, I mean, the knight's coming to d5. It's not over at all. Maybe knight f4 to start. Let's see, queen g5 check. King has to move to f1 or h1. White's king is still pretty exposed. King goes to f1. Knight f4, nice move. This knight can never move, because then queen g2 will be checkmate. Now he wants to take here. Knight g4 by Badur. h5 hitting the knight. What's going to happen here? If check, we just move the king over. Nothing happening over there. Rook e4, nice move, hitting the knight. Knight h3. Alright, now if you take hitting the rook, and you hit the knight, and white should be lost. Okay, so queen b2 with a check, king f7, nice move, sidestepping. This knight is still under attack. There's no checks, everything is covered. Knight e3 maybe, but then check, and you pick up the pawn over here. This looks very, very bad for Jobava, but maybe he can hang on here somehow. Hikaru is on 5.5 out of 7. If we have a quick... you can see him down there. He is the top player with 5.5 out of 7. Right, so let's see. Rook e1 by white. Okay, but this gives up a piece. Does white have enough compensation? I don't really believe it. Maybe queen f6 or queen f5. White should be lost here, but maybe he can pull off some magic. And after all, it is a blitz game with only a 1 second increment. Okay, I guess he has to take, and after king takes, he is down a piece. So let's see. Gupta should be winning this one. Can he convert? That is a big question. Queen d2 by white, g5 now. He creates his anchor square for the knight. This pawn e7 should be lost. Gupta should be completely winning here. Can he pull it off? This pawn is also under attack. Also looks winning. He takes a pawn on e7. King g2. Knight f4 maybe. Oh wait, knight f4 you take twice and you lose your queen. So rook h8 looks a lot safer. He trades and now knight f4. Oh wait, but knight f4 takes and queen d5. You don't want to do that. Rook h8 I guess. Bring in the rook. Bring in the rook, you gotta go. Rook h8, nice move. Now move the king out of the way and then knight f4 on the next move. Gupta should be completely winning here. He's up a piece. Also, Duboff's king is very, very exposed. If you can go knight f4, he can go knight f4 just yet, because then this f4, it's screaming mate in 6. Queen c3, king g2 here, 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 and checkmate. If f3, check and checkmate. Queen c3 on the board. And Gupta is going to win this game and grab the sole lead with 7.5 out of 8. Knight f4 is checkmate. Because if you take with the rook, queen h3, and it's lights out. And it's on the board, queen h3, queen h1, checkmate. Nice performance here by Avjit Gupta, who wins this game against Badur Jobava. Alright, so let's see what else we have. Let's see, we also have Dania Naroditsky playing with the white pieces against Pankratov. Looking pretty good for Dania. He's up a pawn, has a lot more space. 15 seconds for Dania, 26 for black. Maybe queen here. It goes g5, trying to create an attack over there. Okay. We see trade. Okay, knight c8. Rook h1, nice move. Wants to go h6, blast, opening kingside, h6. Dania's crashing through here. Okay, he's defended against that. Knight f5 is coming in. Maybe king g4. Nice move. If knight f5, rook h8, checkmate, rook a2 by black. Queen e6 or something. I don't know. Queen e1. He wants to go here and go for the checkmate. Queen c2. Bring the queen back, but does it work? Queen h1 on the board. Queen f5, just king back. Knight g6 to defend. Rook h7, queen h6. Looks crushing. How can black defend here? Rook takes f2, but do you have a... Kate? White should be winning here. Queen g5, but okay, black has a rook and a knight for the queen. Okay, but there's no checkmate just yet. Okay, black hang on here for dear life. Queen g4, rook f7. Dania creating a pin, but how can he make progress? He should be winning one way or another. Bishop f6, queen g... The rook can come back. Queen g8. King h3. Only 3 seconds for Dania. He almost flanked there. Queen c1. Now the queen's coming in. He should be winning here. Check and take the pawn. He takes it, but now the king comes in. And with the knights hopping around, you never know. Queen c2. Queen c2. And it's game over. You take the rook, and that's GG's. This pawn is going to push down the board. Queen e3. You pick up the knight. And Dania is going to win his game and move to 7 points out of 8 games. Good comeback so far by Dania. Who knows what's possible. So Dania wins this game. Let's see what else we have. We have Dania Duboff as well, but this should be a draw. Both sides having passed pawns, but they should cancel each other out. So you check. e7. Check. King up. King f4 should be the easiest way to draw. King g3. Or that. King g2. And it's going to be a draw against Terry. So Duboff and Terry move to 6.5 out of 8. 1 point behind the leader, Gupta. Let's see what else we have. Black is winning here because black queen's first. Queen check. Okay, black also still has this pawn. So should be completely winning. a4. He just wants to give the queen, then promote the second pawn. Timofeyev, I believe, is playing with the white pieces. He's having a tough time finding the resigned bottom. Bishop c5. Black is winning here, and queen b5 is going to be checkmate. So LB wins his game, moves to 6 points out of 8 games. Let's see what else we have. That wraps up round number 8. So let's have a very quick look at the standings. We see that Avjit Gupta is leading the tournament with 7.5 points out of 8 games. Right behind him are Dania Naroditsky and Gawain Jones with 7 points. And then there's a pack with players out of 6.5 out of 8. Don't count out Hikaru just yet. But with all that being said on you guys, we are going to be taking a very short break. Do not go anywhere. There's more action coming your way in this Title Tuesday. We'll see you guys then. welcome back everyone to the late title Tuesday. So yeah, round number 9 is gonna start very soon. Once again, Avjit Gupta is in a solo lead. He's probably gonna play Naroditsky or Gawain Jones. We'll find out shortly. And we are off. We have Avjit Gupta against Naroditsky. So let's have a look at that game. This is pretty much, I mean, it's not, it's kind of a must-win game for Naroditsky, I would think. He's behind the leader, so I'm sure he wants to win. So I guess he's just going to stick to his guns and play the King's Indian. Let's see. Is Dania there, though? It's the first question. Is he there? Dania, mod check. Okay, knight f6 on the board. g6, and Dania sticks to his guns. He plays the King's Indian. Let's see what white has in mind. Maybe, okay, he goes knight to c3, e4, and d6. h3 by white. e5. d5 is generally here for the line for white. And knight h5 by Dania. g3, stopping knight at f4, and queen e8. So with the move queen e8, black wants to go f5, and after the straight, make sure that this knight is defended, because there are some tactics. And actually, if white takes on e5, there's a tactic. Knight takes g3, knight h4 by white, hitting the knight, knight drops back. Queen c2 is generally move here, hitting the pawn on f5, and white goes for it. So let's see what Dania has in mind here. It's not that easy to defend the pawn on f5, and what white generally wants to do is move this bishop to d2 or e3, and then go for queenside castling. So let's see, e4 by Dania on the board. Alright, maybe bishop e3, bishop g5 played. Guess long castles is what he's looking at. a3, knight c5. Okay, so now knight d3 is an idea for Dania. Okay, so long castles and a5. Okay, so I guess he wants to go a4, anchor in the knight. Alright, so let's see, knight g2, the knight could come around to f4 or e3. The evil bar is giving quite a significant advantage for white. However, in these King's Indian type of positions, it's always pretty unclear. So king b1, let's see, maybe white just wants to go bishop e3 and knight f4. Looks quite pleasant though, because the question is what black's counterplay will be. But we'll find out soon. Bishop e3 by white, hitting the knight on c5 and being ready to hop the knight to f4. Knight at d7 by Dania. So he wants to be able to recapture with the knight on c5. And also this knight could come to e5 as well. Maybe hop in the d3. So I guess white should go knight f4. He's also opened up the bishop on the long diagonal. So maybe he can orchestrate some nice magic along the diagonal. So let's see what's going to happen. Both sides around 2 minutes here. They're out of their opening knowledge. Let's see, the evil bar is showing a nice advantage here for Avjit Gupta. But once again, in these King's Indian type of positions, the position is always very unclear. Knight at b5, nice move, hitting the pawn on c7. Maybe queen d8 by Dania. Okay, queen d8 played. Maybe now knight f4, knight could hop in the e6 at the right moment. Right, so knight f4 played, knight e5 by Dania. I don't know, I feel like white should be better here. Maybe at some point rook g1 and g4, or g4 right away. He wants to blast open the king side, that's where the black king is. I don't know, tough position for Dania. He goes rook to b6. Maybe just rook g1, trying to create some pressure along this file. Pawn takes, bishop takes. Rook g1, hitting the bishop. Maybe king h8, but it's looking quite tricky. You could always go knight h5, so knight g6 played, trying to trade off this knight. You could go knight h5, hitting the bishop, but then maybe just bishop e5. I feel like this position should objectively be good for white, but once again, it's always quite unclear in these King's Indian type positions. So let's see how Gupta is going to proceed here. He only has 2 bars, and he is down half a minute on the clock, so maybe that's something Dania could hope for. Let's see what he's going to do. Okay, white 40 seconds down on the clock. You gotta go here. You gotta go. Dude, you gotta move. Okay, 96. Okay, if takes, your rook is hanging in some variations. So let's see what Dania is gonna do. He could also take with the bishop. Anyway, it should be quite pleasant for Gupta. 96 an option. Tough position for Dania. This on attack, this on attack, and this on attack. So I don't think you can keep the knight on the board. Either bishop takes c6 or knight takes c6 has to be played. Let's see which one Dania is going to go for. Dania also getting down to 1 minute and 20 seconds. I mean, if you take with the knight, then this rook is always under attack. You don't quite... I mean, I guess you have to take with the bishop. Then after pawn takes something, maybe queen e7 to round out the pawn. That way he takes with the bishop, pawn takes... Let's see what he is going to do. Well, it's difficult to flag your opponent here with the 1 second increment. Queen e7 by Dania, hitting pawn on e7. Still, white should be better. Maybe... Not easy. Bishop takes c5, pawn takes. Rook d7, but queen e6. Now Dania should very much be in the game, because now this pawn on f2 is always under attack. Bishop g4 by Gupta. But what if you just move the queen? Let's say here, right, this pawn on f2 is hanging. Feels like it's definitely in Dania's favor now. And that's also what the evil bar shows. Both sides are just under a minute. Let's see. You cannot take on e4, then you hang checkmate. Black's king is quite safe over here. He has enough pieces around the king. And now white is thinking, down to 30 seconds. Gotta go, dude. Let's see what he's gonna do. I don't feel like you can give the spawn. So maybe rook f1 or rook g2. Okay, rook takes c7, queen takes f2 now. Looks pretty good for Dania. And after the tricks, the attack still goes on. Rook g1 played. Alright. Let's see what Dania's gonna do. Maybe queen e1, then bring in the rook. Looking pretty pleasant. Queen e1 check. Okay, wait, but rook f1, rook f1, rook f1. How are you gonna stop checkmate? Rook f1, rook f1 on the board. Check, but maybe knight f8 to block. There is still queen a1 checkmate, and I don't see how you can stop that. Knight f8 on the board. Queen a4, maybe bishop d1, but that's just a free piece. Take it. Take it. Take it. Free piece. Dania's up a piece here. Can he win this game and take over the lead? Knight to c3. Alright. Still not over. Black's king is a bit exposed, and both sides. Dania has 22 seconds. White has 18 seconds. Where is he going to go with the rook? He's hitting this pawn over here. Maybe knight d5. Still some tricks in the position. 15 seconds for Dania. You gotta go, dude. You got... Okay, rook d4 to defend the pawn. Knight d5 and rook e6. He's nicely guarding everything. Rook c7 hitting the bishop. Knight g6. Check. Bishop f8 to block. Knight f4 hitting the rook, hitting the knight, but rook f6. Knight h5, rook f7. He now has everything nicely guarded. h4, but that doesn't do anything. e3. Rook d2 offering rook trade. Rook f2 maybe. Suddenly everything is flying in. Knight f5, rook g2. Right, because after the trade everything is covered. Knight h6, but king g7. White is still down too much material. Knight f7, maybe just e2. Or take the knight. Take the knight. It's completely winning. It's completely winning. He takes the knight. This e-pawn is going to decide the game. Rook c7, bishop e7, and it's all over. e2, e1. Dania is going to win this game and take over the lead. He's going to move to 8 out of 9. And Abhijit Gupta loses his first game of the tournament. Alright, so let's see what else we have. So Dania takes over the lead. Let's have a look at Gawain Jones. Gawain Jones, he's down a pawn. He's not going to win. So Dania is going to take over the lead. Rook c3, and actually, he's still got to be a bit careful here. Although I don't think black can make any progress here. You just sit with the rook, you just wait here. g4 you just take, and it's got to be a draw. You just wait along the second rank. Okay, but now check. Right, and now check, rook e3. Rook b2 is generally the way, and you check along the second rank. Check, check, check. King of 2 is an instant. Oh, king of 2, king h3, king h3! He misses it. And it's a draw. Holy smokes. There was this very nasty move. King h3. Because you cannot go anywhere with your rook. And if you take, and white's lost. Because if you're g2 and you're in Zugzwang, black wins the game. Anyway, Deak misses it. So Dania grabs the sole lead with 8 points out of 9 games. Hikaru trying to win rook versus rook against Raunak, but it's not going to happen. This one is going to be a draw, so Hikaru will practically be out of contention. I mean, 7 out of 9. As we know, 9 points out of 11 games is not going to cut it. And he's not going to win this game. He can try all he wants, but Raunak is of course way too good to lose rook versus rook. At some point the 50 move rule is gonna kick in, but yeah, this one is just gonna end in a draw. Cars, just a couple seconds though, rounding up a little bit up on the clock, but there is just no way. So this game is gonna end in a draw, and it finally does. So Hikaru on 7 points out of 9 games is a point behind the leader, Dania Naroditsky. Behind Dania are Gupta, Gawain Jones, and Badur Jabava. They are still in contention, but I feel like for Hikaru, it's getting late early. It's getting late early. But anyway, with all that being said and done, let's have a look at the game between Dania and Badur Jabava. Okay, so let's see. This is the penultimate round. Dania playing the knight f3 d3 system against the Hikaru, bishop g4 by Badur, and e5 by white, e6. Alright, h3. Black could take now and maybe c5, knight to c6. Goes knight d7 right away. Maybe c5, knight d7 to c6, putting pressure on the center. Black should be doing pretty fine here after in this opening. Let's see, c3. He goes for g6 and h5. Maybe trading off the bishops. We see a trade. Knight to d2 by Dania. White should be a tiny bit better here because he has more space, but Black's position is extremely solid here. h4 by Jabava, fixing the f5 square. Maybe the queen wants to come to g5 in some positions. Hikaru is not yet in the candidates, but he has good chances. Alright, so let's see what Naroditsky is going to do here. g4, does he know Ankarsan? He does. Takes. Knight f5, maybe here. Or kingside castle. Kingside castle is out of the way in this position because you hang the pawn. h4 by Dania. c5 now by Black, putting pressure on the center. Queen e7. Long castles. Maybe Black also wants to go this way. c5, putting pressure on the center. This was a Hikaru, right? So d4 is under attack. What is White gonna do? Maybe queen f4 or queen f2. Let's see. Dania trades and goes king to b1. Maybe now queenside castles. Put your rook on g8. Like, should be doing pretty fine there. Okay, so let's see. Queenside castles on the board. What is Dania gonna do in this position? He goes knight f1. He wants to go knight e3. Okay, rook dg8, knight e3 on the board. Maybe trade now, move the king over at some point. This knight could also come out of c6, putting pressure on the pawn on d4. That's also an idea for Badur. We see trade and knight to b8. Knight wants to come to c6. Nice move, putting pressure on the pawn on d4. Not easy. What is Dania going to do here? He's now 30 seconds on the clock. He's leading the tournament, but Badur is right behind him. And also right behind him are Gawain Jones and Avjit Gupta, who are playing each other. So let's see. Dania offered a draw. Let's see if Badur will take it. Badur could also wait for Dania to make a move and now accepted queen f4. But Badur wants to go for the win. He goes knight c6, hitting the pawn. I think the correct decision. He's up a minute on the clock. He has pressure against all of Dania's weaknesses. Rook to d3. Maybe king b8. You know, the king always sits safer over there. And let's see. And indeed, Badur has declined the draw. Rook h. He blundered. Knight d5. Pawn takes here with a check. That's why the king always sits better here. Rook g7, putting pressure on the pawn. Rook dc3 by Dania. Maybe he's looking to sack. King b8 by Badur. Dania getting down to 1 minute and 15 seconds. a3. How can Badur increase the pressure here? Maybe here, here, and here. Hitting the pawn. Although you can always move the knight out of the way, but then rook g4 will be annoying. Or queen d8, queen b6, also a nice plan. Yep, hitting the pawn on d4. Not an easy position for Dania, who's down to 1 minute and 8 seconds. Tough, tough. What is he going to do here? I mean, if you ever move the knight, you allow rook g4, which is not that pleasant. Rook b3, threatening to take the knight. Maybe just king a8, right on the board. Rook g1 by Dania. Okay, maybe queen a5 or something, I don't know. Dania down 30 seconds on the clock. A6 by Badur. Slowly but surely improving the position. King A2 by Dania. King A7. Both sides shuffling back and forth. How can Badur make progress here though? That's a big question. Badur has 1 minute and 33 seconds on the clock. Dania only 50 seconds. What is he gonna do? Rook G2 sitting on the position. Maybe F6 at some point. Queen A5. He wants to go here, I guess. 44 seconds for Dania. H5. Here comes the H pawn. Maybe Queen A4. Queen A4. How are you gonna defend this? Rook D3 here. Queen A4 on the board. Dania's in trouble. You cannot defend the pawn on D4. If you go Rook D3, Knight B4, you lose your Rook. Rook D2, you hang this. H6 is a move, but that should be weakness. Rook H7. Knight C2. Maybe just Rook here. How are you going to defend this pawn? So Queen C4 with a nasty pin. Rook G4, Queen C1. Queen C4 is still pretty nasty. Everything is pinned. This pawn is weak. Not looking good for Dania. He only has 30 seconds on the clock. Knight A5. Knight A5 is a major threat now. Picking up the rook. So maybe he has to go Queen E2 or Queen E1 to stop that. But then Black could maybe go A5, A4. Very, very tough position for Dania. I guess Queen E2 is the only move because you also defend this pawn over here. Queen E2 played. He had to stop this. But H6 is about to drop off. He takes with the rook. Queen E3 now. The rook is pinned. Wait, Queen E3. This one could flip around. Queen E3. Rook's under attack. King B8. But if you take, then you're going to lose your rook over here. Tough position. Dania, only 7 seconds. You got to go, dude. You got to go. 3, 2. He takes. Rook H2 only move. You got to defend that pawn. Now if Black takes everything, you still have this defended. But Black should be winning somehow. He also has 1 minute and 10 seconds on the clock. All the Dania fans are Manka ass. But can Dania hang on here? Queen C3. Takes. Take. We see trade. King D7. It's not over just yet. King B6. A4. Dania creating counterplay. If you go king here, A5. Trade. And you get a pass B pawn. Not easy. King C6. Check. Can Badur make progress here? I don't see it. Dania hang on here with only 4 seconds on the clock. Once again, if A5 then king up. I feel like he's hanging on here. King E7, A5. Trade, trade. F6. Take, take. King G5, B4. The B pawn starts running. But Black has these passes in the center. D4, B4. E5, B5, E4, B6, D3, B7. Feels like Dania should come first. Let's see what's going to happen. Dania 7 seconds, 28 seconds for Badur. This is really anyone's game at this point. Let's see what Badur is going to do. He could also go King G5, B4, King G4, B4. Okay, D4 play, B4. B4, you got to go, dude. B4, D3, B5, take, take. B6. Suddenly, this is Dania's game. This B pawn is way too far advanced. Rook H8, B7, King G5, Rook C2. Rook C8 is coming. I think he's got this one in the back. Rook C8, and yeah, Black is not too far advanced. King G4, he pushed the pawns, but the king is coming back very, very quickly. E4, King D5. It's got to be winning for white. 11 seconds for Badur. He must realize he's lost. King D5, played by Dania. E4, Rook C3. It should be over. Rook C3. F4, take, take. King D4. It's all over. Dania is going to win this game as well. And moves to 9 out of 10. Very, very tough game, but he manages to pull off an insane comeback. And he stays in the lead with 9 points out of 10 games. So let's see if anyone stays close to him. Alright, we see that Gawain Jones did win his game. He's half a point behind him. So they will face off in the last round to determine who will win it all. Hikaru is still playing. He is playing Joppy. Jordan Van Forest. So we see a trade here. Hikaru up a pawn, but can he convert? Check. F5 now. Is Rook C3 a move? Rook C3 played. If you take, take. G5. Checking these. It's got to be a draw though, you would think. Because this king is stuck defending this pawn. You can give a check with king back. It's got to be draw. Wait, check. Maybe and take. But king C7. Oh, wait. It's not over. Just check. Rook E8. It's a draw. Hikaru's not going to win this game as well. Tough. But he would be out of first place anyway. Because Dania is a full point behind him and Gawain Jones is half a point behind. So it's got to be Dania Naroditsky or Gawain Jones who will win this week's Saddle Tuesday. We'll find out soon. Yep, Hikaru must realize that he cannot win this one. He will try, but it's just gonna be a draw. And now Joppy gives the checks from the back, and it's gonna be a draw. And a draw was agreed. Right, tough title Tuesday for Hikaru. Let's see what else we have. So we have Dreyev playing against Alexis Arana. Dreyev trying to squeeze out a win here with the rook and knight. First the rook. It's not easy because Black's king is on the rim. Can Dreyev pull off some magic here? King e3, do not take the knight because you get checkmated. Yeah, rook d2 now, rook g5, knight f4, defending everything. King f3, still a bit tricky for Black, but it should be a draw. h2, king moves over, maybe now knight here. Knight d3, rook e3, rook e3. Rook e3, nice move. If you take, it's still made. And this game between Dreyev and Michnik ends in a draw. Alright, so is there still a game? Yep. White won. So that wraps up round number 10. Round number 11 is going to start shortly. Dania Naroditsky has the black pieces against Gawain Jones. A draw will be enough to seal first place. Let's see how Gawain will do. If Gawain wins this one, he will win the tournament. So let's see. All Dania needs is a draw. However, Gawain could try to take advantage of that situation because Dania offered a draw, by the way, after the move c5, and Gawain declined it. I think the correct decision, because Gawain can offer a draw anytime he wants to, right? Because there's no difference for Dania between a win and a draw. In both cases, he does win the tournament, d5, we see a trade, and castles. But I feel like Dania is a little bit worse here, because his bishop on g2 is always exerting some annoying pressure along this diagonal. Knight b4 played, he wants to bring out the other knight to c6, and try to neutralize the pressure here. Although, it's not that easy. If you go here, we trade, and then we take here and ruin the black pawn. So, let's see what Dania is going to do here. I feel like he should be a little bit worse. I mean, once again, Gawain is a fighter, but also given the tournament situation, Gawain can offer a draw at any moment. And Dania will probably still take it. Unless it's like mate in 3, right? But if Dania is up a pawn and Gawain offers a draw, why would he decline it, right? Because the draw wins the tournament for him. Anyway, queen c2 by Gawain. Gawain's a little bit better here, but not an easy position. The pawn on c6 is isolated. Let's see what Dania will do about it. He could go bishop h3, creating counterattack, goes queen to d6, hitting the knight on a3. Maybe knight c4 and queen f6. Let's see, tricky position. Dania should be a little bit worse. Gawain Jones is English indeed. Knight a5 hitting the pawn, but I feel like that's a little bit off. Maybe you can just play for activity. Bishop h3, hitting the rook. Rook has to move to one of these squares. Let's see, rook d1 played. But once again, this pawn is weak, but white has the weaknesses around the king. So rook c8 defending the pawn, maybe just rook c1, bring in another piece. And he could also trade the queens at any moment. Alright, let's see what Gawain's going to do. Rook a1 looks like the natural move, and it's played. Maybe rook d8 for Dania, bringing in more pieces into the game. c5, moving the pawn up the board. Alright, let's see. So Dania has these slight structural weaknesses. However, once again, the king is a little bit weak. Knight c4 played by Gawain. Rook to d8, good move, activating another piece. Maybe knight has to come back. We'll see what Gawain is going to do. And he trades on d8. Alright, so let's see. And rook d1 offering rook trade, but that does not feel like the move. Because let's say Dania trades now and goes like queen c3. What can you ever do here as white? Where you cannot make a move. And Dania trades. Let's see, queen c3 played. It feels pretty comfortable now for Dania. Right, I don't see a move for white. Queen d2, checkmate. Maybe f3 and king of 2, but after f3 there's bishop e6, which is annoying, putting pressure on the knight. The position should be quite comfortable now for Dania. So let's see what Gawain will do. f3 played, and Gawain offered a draw. So if Dania takes it, he wins Title Tuesday, and a draw is agreed. So yeah, huge congratulations to Dania Naroditsky. He wins this week, Title Tuesday, and a nice $1,000. So a good day at the office for him. All right, and Gawain Jones might come in second. Let's have a look at the other games. So there are still a couple players who could catch up with him. Let's have a look at this game between Rasmus Svane and Dania Duboff. Svane is up a pawn. Dania Duboff is trying to create some counterplay here along the h file, but it doesn't feel like it should be enough. Position is very solid for Svane. Rook c1 and rook c7 is an option. Bishop g5, but Duboff hitting the knight. Let's see whether he's going to allow the trade or maybe move the knight. Let's see. Once again, congratulations, Dania, on winning this week's Title Tuesday. Alright, Svane is thinking in the current position. Let's see. Could move the rook in or move the knight somewhere. Okay, rook c1 played, but now if you take and take, White's king does feel pretty exposed. He takes right away, but after gf, White's king is still sitting pretty safe because the h file remains closed. You could take with the e pawn, but okay, takes with the g pawn. I think the correct decision. Let's see what Duboff's gonna do now. Queen is okay. Rook h5, good move, hitting the queen. Rook c5, nice move by Svane. If you take with the queen, and I think if White gets the queen off, if White gets the queens off, he should be technically winning. Rook c8, nice move. If you take here, you take here. If you take the rook on c8, we take the queen on b5. So let's see what Svane is gonna do here. This king is still a little bit exposed, and he d5, but it doesn't do anything. Rook d5, rook d5, the same trick. If you take this rook. If you take the rook on c8, you take the queen on b5. d5, very weird decision. Rook d5 now for Duboff to completely come back into the game. And actually, I would already prefer Duboff's position here, because once again, this king is so exposed on g1. Svane now in some trouble. What is he gonna do? Is he gonna take the rook here and give up the queen for the two rooks, or is he gonna let Duboff take on c1? If Duboff wins this game, he catches up with Gawain Jones and he might take second place. We see that Joppy has drawn his game. He was to 8.5. And Svane has given up his queen for the two rooks, but the king here is pretty weak. So Duboff goes queen to d7. He wants to go queen g4, h3, queen g2, try to pick up this pawn. All looking pretty promising. Let's see what Svane will do. Maybe, I don't know. 19 seconds for Duboff, 27 seconds for Rasmus Svane. What is he going to do here? Gotta go, dude. There's no easy moves here. You cannot stop queen g. He goes king of pawn, but now b5 is hanging. Take the pawn, then start running the a pawn. Queen b5, take the pawn. a4, a3, b5, b4, h3 by Svane, but a4. The pawns start running down the board pretty fast. Rook c3 played, hitting the queen. Where's the queen gonna go? Queen e6, hitting the pawn on h3, king g2 to defend. b5, rook c6, hitting the queen. Maybe queen b3 back. Yep. Rook c3, hitting the queen. Queen b2. Rook c2 back. Queen b4. He wants to go a3, move the queen, and then b4. Rook a2, queen there. Now you cannot... The queens are doing a good job of stopping the pawns, but you cannot move them. So let's see how Dania will try to convert here. Maybe move the king all the way over, and then b4. Rook b1. g5, trying to blast open the king side. We see a trade. 8 seconds for Svane. Rook b2. f5 maybe. Rook a3. a3 now. b4. Slowly but surely pushing up the board. Should be winning. Where's the rook going to go? b3. b4. Rook b1. But you never threaten to take. a2 maybe, but rook here. Queen c4. Nice move. And now White is lost. Rook here. b3. He gives up the queen. He gives up the rook for the queen, but this should be winning. f5. Okay, stopping f4 for the moment. Okay, queen d5 defending the pawn. Now he could go f4, blasting everything open. Queen f3 is coming. King h2. Now f4 should be winning for Duboff. Duboff's gonna win this game. f4. He walks the king around. Should be a pretty... And now somehow you gotta pass White the move. Somehow you gotta pass White the move. Rook a2, king c3, king c3. White's in f4, nice move. Take here and you collect the rook. So maybe Duboff can leapfrog Gawain Jones. Let's have a look. We'll of course have to wait for the final tiebreaks to come in. But as it stands right now, it seems that Gawain Jones will probably clinch second place, Duboff third, Chesscom fourth place, and Hikaru will probably take... Oh, alright, so let's see. Okay, we'll just have to wait for the final results to come in. Let's see what games are still going on. We have this game between Badur Duboff, who had a pretty good tournament against Injic. But this endgame, I think, is a technical loss. Or a win for white if you lose on time. Did he disconnect or something? Yeah, tough. Injic was technically winning, but he flagged. And there we have it, you guys. The final results are in. We see that Dania wins the late edition of Title Tuesday. Wait, these are not the final standings, but we do have it here. We see that Dania wins the late edition of Title Tuesday with a score of 9.5 out of 11. In second place, picking up $750. Gawain Jones in third place. Dania Duboff picking up, I think, $500. Then in fourth place, we have Ranex Vodani. In fifth place, we have our good friend Jospham. And in sixth place, Hikaru, who will probably pick up Best Streamer. Hey, at least at something. But yeah, guys, that wraps up Title Tuesday for today. Once again, a huge congratulations to Dania Narditsky for winning this edition of Title Tuesday. Anyway, if you all enjoy my commentary, make sure to drop me a follow at GM Benjamin Bach. Once again, I hope you all enjoyed the show. Congrats to Dania, amazing performance. He came in clutch when it mattered, and yeah, he fully deserved to win this one. But with all that being said and done, you guys, we are gonna wrap up here. We hope to see you tomorrow for Arena Kings. Anyway, once again, thank you all for watching here on Twitch, here on YouTube. Thanks to all the moderators. Thanks to everyone behind the screens. And we look forward to seeing you all in the next one. See you guys. Have a good one.